Daniel Craig is not James Bond. GoldenEye is not James Bond. 007 First Light is not James Bond. But this right here, very specifically, this is James Bond 007. And when I tried to use AI to put my name in between the breasts, it did not do what I wanted.
The name's Mandrake.
And I know what a lot of you are thinking. The water in this game kinda sucks. Yes, it does. But let's try not to be too petty. I mean, how often does AAA even come close to getting it right? But there's an overwhelming stench of positive reviews for this game. I was there for GoldenEye, so I put in 30 hours to give this a fair review. Because this review, my review, let's just say I'm not IGN. 3 3/4 cheeseburgers. That's what I'm giving it. That's not a bad score. AAA did it right here.
Reception is this way.
What do people do for fun at the Pearl?
And I honestly felt like this format was the perfect home for 007. But this is not to say the game doesn't come without some flaws. Story, 3/4 of a cheeseburger. The story did have that James Bond high-stakes plot and pacing, but it wasn't anything new and was extremely predictable. There was no real solid villain foundation, and the villain ends up being more like a Metal Gear Solid villain than a Bond archetype. Where's my man running around with his frisbee hat, chopping off heads? There's so much throwing stuff in this game, you could have had the main villain be a thrower. I don't know, he could throw his personal assistants at us or something, and they, like, explode. One thing that stood out massively to me, I was waiting for a stylish James Bond. The skins are not awful, but they seem to progress backwards. So let me clarify. You start out in a war-torn military tactical uniform and you end in sweatpants. Does that make sense for Bond in terms of story development? Also in the story, there's no customization freedom. It would be nice if disguises and such played just a little bit more of a role here. For now, the turtleneck and London fog pants will have to do. Notably, if we check out our dossier here, there's a few things they nailed, and I mean nailed. The Bond moments, the one-liners, whether in a cutscene or triggered in the game, they're perfect. Masterclass. More, if anything, please. More, please, more. And to my very surprise, they didn't castrate him. I'm even tempted to manifest an extra cheeseburger just to reward it for that alone, because that is James Bond 007. But it's like the McRib, you see, it's limited. There's only 5 cheeseburgers, there will never be more. Graphics, 3/4 of a cheeseburger. This should have been a full cheeseburger, but smoke and the water. The smoke and the water. The smoke looks like an SPC entity, and the water looks like, well, some kind of a preservation tank. Speaking of the water looking like vats of KY jelly, there were times when I felt like the engine appeared to be struggling, but it never really broke. However, what did break were some physics issues with debris. Also, some of the NPCs had strange environmental behavior. Like these guys who didn't even need a gas mask. But the seamless animations of characters like Bond holding railing when they're walking next to it, chef's kiss kind of stuff right there. The camera during combat, it gets a little bit difficult. Gameplay, half a cheeseburger. This again should have been a full cheeseburger, but it's not, and here's why. In an otherwise smooth and well-paced playthrough, they drop a series of missions on you which throw a total wrench in your momentum. And for this, you must be punished. It's so bad that I've watched nearly every streamer hit the same areas and convey the same frustration at its stupidity. I am talking, of course, about the garden and the web corporate building. These are the most Bond-like missions throughout the game. It's not that you have to run around and do a lot of backtracking, it's how that backtracking works. Let me make this really simple. If Bond needs a key card, Bond does not sneak around for hours trying to find it, he blows up the door. While this character perk is prevalent in many cutscenes and levels, it seems to be a forgotten quality in these 2 stages in particular. Even the later Vietnam chapter has you doing a lot of sneaking and running around, but in that setting and context, it matches up with Bond. The garden and web offices feel so out of place, it's like they crammed them in there just to farm playtime. Think about it. After I've seen everything, including the tasks and missions, and achieved the unlocks, I'm waiting for new content at 30 hours. I don't think that's what they want. They want more hours. So if you take out all the meaningless frustration by dropping those 2 levels and actually give us something more Bond-like, you're losing a lot of playtime. These levels feel like they are just there to farm our time. This is disappointing, especially because so much was done right. The training tutorial and integrating gameplay into a tutorial montage has got to be one of the most engaging and imaginative firsts that I've seen. That alone deserves recognition. But then likewise, they build you up for an ultimate James Bond driving a sweet car mission, and it never really comes.
Besides, she's not ready.
In fact, the first hype train for the tax sim is for a Valhalla driving mission, because it's not in the story. That's bad form. Now, the combat was just like the Batman Arkham games, and rightfully so considering they got what's-his-nuts to head that department. However, Bond's knees would be like bending a bag of dry crackers with all the faceplants that land there. He should have a few more moves. Environmentally, the fighting though is very pleasing. Throwing objects, interacting with the cabinets and corners of tables. Feel like Boss Rutten.
And look what we got here. Smack his face, smack his face. Gonna bounce his head on the table 10 times or something. Don't you ever do this.
Bang, bow, jang, use the thing. Customization. Half a cheeseburger. Another one that should have been a full cheeseburger. First of all, the customizable options here on release are way too limited, especially if you bought the game at like the $80 deluxe version. You can only use customizations in the tax sim, and it's obvious this is where the life of the game will focus on microtransactions, when I'd rather it just focus on story content, not tactical sims like in Hitman. They're fine, they're engaging, they're fun, but the game should not rely on them. Moving on, every skin here looks awesome, and that warrants some positive feedback. But the area of customization in this game is practically non-existent at the moment. Length, 3/4 of a cheeseburger. Like I said, you drop those two meaningless levels and replace that time with something more James Bond, and this would have been a full cheeseburger. We're players, we're not produce. Stop farming us. And currently with a minimum price tag of $69.99, is it worth it? I gotta say no, but $45 would have been fair here. So, your total score is 3 3/4 cheeseburger, 007 First Light. It's not terrible, but easily could have been a full 5. Oddly, I think it just might get there. If not here, then in an upcoming sequel of some sort. Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found this video useful. If you did enjoy this content, please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more.
I'm not MI6.